Do you guys have your lab notebooks? Yeah. Yep, leave your backpacks over here and then just come on this side and have a seat. Are you cold? What? Are you cold? I will be. It's going to be okay. It'll get warmer in here. Hey, Christopher. Christopher. Yeah, you can leave your backpacks on this side. All right, so this is the rubric. You can listen to the instructions and everything, but this is the rubric that we're going to be using. Okay. So you just get your stuff figured out until you get with your group after class, like, for tomorrow. Okay. But just stay on this side. But everything you should be fine. You could be listening to. Backpack, something to write with. Or not backpack. Lab notebook, something to write with.
Do we need that paper?
No. You've got whiteboards.
All right. I'm going to...
Kendall, you look perplexed. Okay, leave your backpacks over here and just take your lab notebook over. Hey, folks, let's get in your seats as quickly as possible. You just need your lab notebooks and something to write with. Hey, Aiden. You go. Don't hit Nick on the way out. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, you guys, and the lab, the copy of the lab. The lab that you grabbed yesterday. That's huge. You can leave your backpacks on this side. Yes. Fair. And you want the February one, right?
Oh, I have that too.
Okay. You guys leave your backpacks over here, lab notebook and lab. Let's go, folks. Let's get situated. There's one over here for you. Who are you guys missing from your group? Abdullah? Oh, sorry. Sorry. There you go, Quentin. You got your lab, dog? Lab? Christine, you got a copy of the lab? Run. Sarah, do you have your lab notebook? Yeah. Do you have a copy of the lab too? Okay. You guys, yeah.
No, Chris is over there.
Oh, okay. Let's just take this down there. You guys grab a rubric. We sit. Hi, Amy. Hey, folks, if you could take the chairs down around your seats until your peers come, that would be good. And Chris is over there. Who are we missing here? Grace went to go get her lab notebook. Aiden went to get his lab notebook? Okay. And Cole's getting his lab notebook? Okay, that's fine. All right, let's do a real quick equipment check, folks. Come on, Grant. Come on, Cole. Lab notebook and the lab. You don't have the pink sheet. The lab from yesterday that you picked up. Did you pick this up after the test? Yeah. Okay. I think we're finally getting situated. Okay, I want to do a real quick, good morning. Hi, Grace. Oh, Cole. Poor Cole. Poor Cole. All right, we'll wait for Grant and Logan to come in. All right, good morning. Let's do a quick equipment check first. Does everybody have a lab notebook? Yeah. Yes? And you have a copy of the lab that you picked up yesterday? Yeah. You have that? All right, and then on each table you should have a pink rubric. And it should be printed on both sides. Make sure it's printed on both sides. All right? Thank you, Cole. There's one right on the table for you. Okay. I think we're all situated once we get Logan back in. One more? Okay. All right. Never mind. Today our goal is this. Eyes up, please. Today our goal is this. Normally I give you a lab, right? And you guys go into the lab, you're like, yeah, Mr. Mueller gave me a lab. We go into the lab area and you start looking at each step, 1 step, 2 step, kind of like you're baking a cake. This lab's not like that. This lab is an AP chemistry lab that's been modified for you, but the text of the lab, as you were reading this last night, you're going to notice it's not set up like your traditional labs. It's got a little bit more information. It's got a few more steps. They tell you what to do, but not how to do it. So your job today is to look at how you're going to set up the pre-lab for the lab that you're going to do tomorrow. So today we're not, obviously the lab's not set up, so we're not going to do any lab work today, but the pre-lab stuff that we're going to be doing is going to be crucial for success for tomorrow, all right? So you read this last night. Today you're going to discuss it in your groups and read in your groups. You'll notice that your boxes on your tables have only black markers and they have highlighters. And so whenever you are reading through the lab and you see something that might be interesting or something that is unfamiliar, or you see something that might help you write one of the things that's on the rubric, I want you to go ahead and highlight it on your lab sheet. Got that? The next thing that you're going to be doing is using the rubric. So pull this out. Now this lab is going to be worth 30 points. And the first part of it is the bulk of your lab. So you've read the lab, you're going to be discussing it, you're going to be writing about it, and then tomorrow you're going to actually go do it. So you're finally going to actually know what you're doing when you go in the lab, because you will have had a lot of exposure to what you're supposed to be doing, all right? So if we look at the rubric, the very first thing, and I just kind of want to pull this together, title and purpose. You'll notice on here, there's no purpose. You're going to have to come up with the purpose based off of the criteria for the rubric. Now I would expect that this will probably be the same for your group, but before anybody writes a purpose down, the whole group has to agree. Where are my facilitators? Who are my facilitators? All right, we have a couple for each group, right, Maury? So your job is to make sure that everybody is on task, that you are starting quickly and on time, and that you're staying on task. Where are my quality control people? Quality control, how about that group? Yes? All right, remember I said that you're probably all going to have the same purpose? Your quality control people are the people that once the group presents a purpose, they're going to go ahead and look at that and make sure it is written in the proper grammar, it has proper punctuation, and also it's written in third person. No first person writing. You might want to write that down. No first person writing. Everything's going to be written in third person. Okay? How about our process analyst people? Where are you? Process analysts? Process analysts? Process analysts over here? All right. Your job is timing. Before you leave today, you need to get up to the data section. So you need to make sure that your group is on task and going through that. And spokespeople, your job is to come and ask me questions. Okay? Now, let's look really quickly at the rubric. Very fast at the rubric. Title, purpose, self-explanatory. Introduction, background information. There's a lot of information on this lab in this text. You're going to need to pull out what pieces. It doesn't necessarily mean it's at the top of the page. It could be all over these two sides. For the pre-lab questions and the experimental overview, you'll see that right on the lab. Investigative design. All right, so what's this lab about? Qualitative analysis. What does qualitative mean? What does that mean? No numbers. What did you say? Description. So where are we going to get those descriptions from? What do you think we're going to have to do? Experiment and observe. So observations are going to be key. So you're going to have to actually observe beyond, be descriptive in your observations when you're writing your observations down. So the gist of the lab is this, folks. You are going to, tomorrow, bring your pre-labs into the lab. You're going to do 4 tests, 4 qualitative tests on 4 known substances. So you'll know whether those substances are ionic or covalent. Then what you're going to do is you're going to use those results in that testing process, that scheme that you're going to make, and I'm going to give you some unknowns. And then you're going to use that schema and you're going to go in and you're going to test your unknowns to see if they're ionic or they're covalent. But before you do that, when everybody's done testing their knowns, I want the quality control person from each group to visit another group, okay, and compare what that other group got, because we want everybody's data to be similar, and if there's any gross misconceptions or if there's any gross errors, we want to get those done before you start to do your unknowns, because you're going to get graded on whether or not you choose the correct unknown. Questions? Anybody? It doesn't have to be a spokesperson. All right, it's 7:32. I'm going to go ahead and give you some time to get organized with your facilitator. I'm going to be walking around to each of your groups and asking you to explain to me where you're at in the process, so everybody be on guard and ready to speak. Okay, go. Yeah, hold on, my teacher time out here. You can write it in your notebook, but not until quality control checks it, okay? And one thing I forgot to mention to you, remember we've been talking about patterns all along, right? We've been talking about all kinds of patterns. You should see a pattern on things that will give you ionic compounds and things that will give you covalent compounds. That's the science standard of this. The writing standard of this is writing a procedure, okay? Your procedure has to be concise. And the one other thing I forgot to tell you about, see the safety on the lab? Go back to the page that's got safety on it, the other side. Look at all that safety. You get 2 sentences. You have to summarize that into 2 sentences, right? Everything else, you're going to have all your own words, but that safety, you have to include it, and you're going to include the safety in the investigative design, okay? So when you set up your lab, these are all your components. You're going to set your lab up exactly. These are your titles. These are going to be your headings for each part of your lab. All right, go, sorry. You can use the whiteboards to write on first, or you can use a different sheet of paper. I don't think we're going to use our whole lab notebook, so if you want to use a page at the end as scrap paper, you can do that. You guys can do that too. You can use the whiteboards for your ideas, or you could use a page at the end of your lab notebook, because I don't think we'll get to the last page, if you just want to kind of scribble some things down. Who's facilitating? You are? Okay. Have at it.
Something for introduction concepts too?
So you're going to follow this, but you have to pull it from here. So this isn't set up the same way as this is, so your job is to take this text and fit it into this rubric. Okay? And you guys can use the boards for ideas. You could use the last page of your lab notebook, because I don't think we're going to get to the end of the notebook. All right? Who's facilitating? Have at it. Yeah, you guys the same thing. You can use, you can use the boards, or if you want to use the last page in your book, we're not going to use the whole book probably, so if you want to use that for scrap paper, you can. Got everything? Okay. Who's our facilitator? Okay, Maureen. You can use the whiteboards for ideas. You guys can also use the last page of your lab notebook if you want scrap paper. But your job is to take that text and put it into this rubric. So those headings do not match these headings. So that's why you're interpreting that text to fit these headings.
And then we can figure out their chemical properties. And then we're going to use those to identify 4 unknowns. So you're going to use
I agree with that. Qualitative analysis and chemical bonding.
The titles.
using known properties.
You guys can also divide and conquer if you want to. Facilitator, you can assign jobs. Your facilitator can assign jobs too if you want to. Good job highlighting, Connor.
Yeah. Both chemical and physical.
Okay, so then should the purpose be... Good job highlighting.
Okay, the purpose I'm guessing is to identify 4 unknown solids based on testing of their physical and chemical properties.
Wait, does it say that in here?
Yeah.
Where?
Experiment.
Wait, what did it say? Experiment.
Of the experiment.
To identify 4 unknown solids based on testing of their physical and chemical properties.
Oh. Okay, wait, where? Oh, okay, thank you. You're welcome. So it's just that first sentence.
Yeah.
So we don't have to say advanced inquiry.
Yeah, we don't need that.
You can say the purpose is to design a procedure. Oh, you say the
It's
purpose
the
is to
purpose of this
identify.
lab is to identify 4 unknown solids based on the testing of their physical and chemical properties.
I think we should include the design and procedure though, because like we're coming up with it. Very thoughtful thought.
Well, you could. That would like.
But that's not like the
It's to-
actual
Oh, yeah,
purpose of the
yeah.
entire
Purpose is to
lab. is
Well, it kind of is though, because doesn't she want us to like to learn how to set up our own experiments? So that's like a purpose.
It's
I guess we can include it, but that's not really the purpose.
And then I'd just be like taking it directly from here.
Okay, we'll just do the identify thing.
Okay, now we need to find introduction and background information. So I think all we need to do, because we're checking to make sure, like, if it's, we're pretty much checking if it's ionic or covalently bonded. So we should just, like, find information about ionic and covalent bonds.
Well, and it says metallic, so we might have to do metallic bonds.
Oh yeah, we'll just find all the concepts and define them, or like the important ones.
Well, no, we don't have to label the. We have to find what.
Good, so you didn't just take the title right off and you went ahead and explained it descriptively. All right, good.
To determine unknown substances, unknown solids, unknown solids, and their bonds. Or bond to determine bonding types of bonds of unknown solids. Because
Are you in agreement for your
we're still trying to figure.
purpose?
Not yet. No.
So why don't you try to go back to the text
Yeah, that's
and
what
see what you can find? Because I'm hearing you thinking it out loud, like what should it be based on what I maybe described. But I think if you go back to the reading in all of it, not just even the backside, but all of it, and then you might want to highlight the differences between what might be a purpose statement and versus what might be just intro and background, and then kind of minimize it that way. And watch your time. You're about 7:40 here.
So I'm gonna just stick with the title.
What are we highlighting, Doug? What are you guys trying to look for? In background? Okay. Okay. So everybody agreed on this purpose of the lab is to identify 4 unknown solids for designing a procedure to test and compare their chemical properties. So what you guys came up with?
Yeah.
Okay. And you don't have to all stay on the same place. If somebody wants to go further into something else, you can, but just make sure you come to consensus when you're coming back and making sure that you're using this as your text to kind of guide you with it.
Okay.
All right, good.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So you probably don't want to include like too much in the background.
Yeah, so background, the only thing that's important is that obviously groups of atoms are held together by bonds, and then ionic compounds, or ionic bonding is the force between absolutely charged, covalent is that they're shared, and then they can also be polar or non-polar.
I think we should also add that what you need to do, like it says similarly, in order to break a bond between 2 atoms, energy must be added to the system, usually in the form of heat, light, or electricity. So I think that's one of the experiments that we're going to do.
So
That's true.
That's like the background first paragraph.
Issues there that maybe you don't need to put in your report, but maybe you might want to mention later.
yeah, sure, start with the first sentence of the
There's different
background.
places where you can put that text, right?
So chemical bonds hold groups of
Because you're
atoms.
going to have to support everything you write with evidence once you get to the end. So that might be something that you would use for evidence as you go further on. Okay, and watch your time, you guys. It's about 7:41.
I have a lot of stuff highlighted. My stuff getting highlighted because I highlighted everything.
All right, let me give you a real quick timeout. I love the way you're working, and I love the way you're coming together. I just want you, just to remind you, there's a lot of background information, but just because it says background information on the lab doesn't necessarily mean that that's all you can use it for. If you look further down the rubric, when you do your data analysis, when you do your conclusion at the end of the lab, you're going to have to support all that you do with evidence. And some of that evidence is going to come from the text, from the reading, from the background, and the intro information. So certainly your lab report isn't going to be big enough to hold all of this. This is, you just want to capture the main ideas here, okay? You're capturing main ideas. Go ahead. Keep going.
So I said the purpose of this lab was not only to identify 4 unknown solids, but to do that by selecting measurable properties that will help identify the type of bonding in a solid. Because I think we should.
Oh, I wrote identifying 4 unknown solids and the type of bonding within by testing the physical. It's pretty much the same. Just
So as concise and as short and as complete as you can make the sentence, that's how you want to write. You want to try to get it all done without being too wordy, but actually getting your point across.
So I basically just wrote what you read and stuff like that.
Yeah, but in like different.
Yeah.
How would I just do it after?
I want to do it in sections. Like we finished the first section. Now let's do it. Now let's finish the first section.
I'm still gonna write on this just in case I mess up on spelling or something.
You're not typing in your lab report. Remember, our lab report's all written in your lab notebook. So, and remember, pardon me? Everything is in your lab notebook. Everything's in your lab notebook. Well, remember, it's not what I want, but it's got to be enough information that if you handed your lab to somebody, they would have a gist of what this lab is. Because when you write your own lab procedure, you're writing it so that somebody else could actually do it. Not just for me to grade it, but could Grace hand her lab to Logan? And could that be just like a book coming at you and saying, yes, I know how to do this? And so you might not need all that information right now in your intro and your background. You might come back to it later and use it as evidence in your conclusions. Right, so follow the rubric. What does that have to look like? It's got to be some coherent paragraphs.
Next time was conclusion first and then the purpose.
Exactly.
That's the right spirit.
How far are you now, Abdullah?
We're so we split.
Abdullah. But thanks, Ajay.
I thought
we finished the purpose and then they're gonna do the background information, the pre-lab, and then we're gonna do the design.
Okay. Good. Make sure you're following the rubric though, because you want to hit all those things that say exceed expectations.
Wait, does it have to be in the order?
Yes. Yep.
CIJ?
You have to go, your lab report needs to be in this order. These are going to be the headings for each of the components of your lab. That's why it's
not
not like this.
necessarily in here though.
Yes.
Oh, in here?
That's your lab report, right?
Oh, I thought we were gonna. This is our rough draft.
Your lab report has to follow
So we don't have
these
to type
components.
it, do we?
No, it's all in your lab notebook.
Wait,
You're
what?
writing it in your lab notebook.
Yes, okay, because, yeah.
Perfect.
So then we don't have anything until our title.
What?
So we're still waiting on our title then.
That doesn't really matter because like that top.
Okay. Yes, title. Right above it.
You guys can take the lead. If there's, if they're in one place and you guys feel like you can move to the next level, go ahead, just make sure you all share.
So it's like you have to do the conclusion last first.
So this is great. This is the one we're sticking with?
Just gonna combine my phone background.
Or that one? Same one? Okay, great. Now, this is not an easy task. It's time consuming, and it's also trying to pick apart the text and trying to figure out what is and is not relevant for you to have your lab report in good shape. You guys are all writing so feverishly and quietly. Did you all decide to highlight the same thing and then just jot it down? Okay.
We don't have the exact same thing.
Okay.
Yeah, but the same idea.
Same idea. And make sure, don't just pull that text right off the the lab and throw it in your lab notebook. You really want to paraphrase it and get it to a nice, concise, statement if you can.
Right.
Okay?
Should we mention like how ionic bonds are usually very strong versus covalent bonds are weaker?
So I think we should write the definition of ionic, definition of covalent, and then write that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Keep in mind that should be brief still.
Yeah. So you guys are interpreting the first table to try to get the second table's answers?
Yeah.
So how did you do that with the first table? What patterns were you looking for?
If it was like polar and not polar, and then like what that meant later on.
That's a great ACT type of a question. Or you guys just took the plan test. You saw a lot of tables on there and a lot of graphs. So this first table, taking those melting points color, now that should be helpful for you too, because what are you testing? Did you go down to the procedure yet?
No.
Okay. this pre-lab is giving you kind of a premonition of what's coming up. So if they're giving you a table on melting point and solubility, that might be some of the things that you're going to try to test. So now you have to explain how you're going to do those things. Okay? All right, where are we at? We've got a title, we've got a purpose, and we've got your background information's good?
Yeah.
So what's next on the rubric?
Will we answer the pre-lab question?
Alright, this is the hard part. Now, when you write your lab, all your components are going to be in this order. Okay? Alright, it's 7:48.
That's a big one.
About 20 minutes.
Wait, Sammy, what was sulfur? Sulfur is non-polar covalent.
Because all the bonds cancel
It
out.
was low.
Wait, are we supposed to choose which materials we're gonna use, or are we using all of them?
And then is the melting point low?
We're using a
And it's soluble.
like it's like the four it's like the four solids,
Yeah.
and then we're
And then
using
all
the
the
other
molecules
stuff to
that
like
we
test
need.
them.
Okay. So then we just have to create a procedure.
No,
How
they have a
we do this?
procedure.
No, we don't. We don't have a procedure.
Yeah, we have to make up the procedure. Guided inquiry.
We have to supply energy. Whether we climb a mountain or throw a ball high in the air, we have to supply energy. So we can say whatever you just said.
Yeah, that's
And
just from
then-
the first.
Go ahead and use a whiteboard to write it down so
Yeah.
you remember.
Yeah.
I don't want to break up your conversations because they're really intense.
Hydrology and water, higher. I don't think we need to do more than that. I don't think we need to. No. You run in an alternate
Where we at?
fluid and you determine its resistance. If it's ionic, then it has lower resistance. Then polar non-covalent. What? No, you have
No,
to
the safety does. Here, Brady.
electricity.
I know, but like it'd be like a little thing, like the machine thing. All you do is use that, right? So it's just
So Ajay, what's your conversation going on about down there?
Well, we're talking about during the introductory activity, it's giving us a list of qualitative testing that we can do.
Sure.
So we've narrowed it down to solubility in water, high-low melting points, and pH of solution. And we're not sure if we need anything more than that, or if we should use a conductivity of a solid in solution to see like whether it's like ionic, how well it conducts electricity. So if it's ionic, it's going to conduct more electricity. Non-polar covalent, it's going to conduct less electricity.
Okay, I like that you're using the right vocabulary too. So think about this. Would you, when you're doing your experiments, does it help to have, what kind of data do you want to have? Do you want to have more data? Do you want to have less data?
More data.
Okay, so you probably should wait until you get in the lab and
Yeah,
do
and
as much.
choose that. Yeah, but then we have to figure out if we're going to be able to cut down our procedure on the day of the lab. Like, we'll be able to like cut it out.
The test won't take you that long to do.
All right.
So I think they're pretty, because they're qualitative tests, it's not like we have to wait for measurements, like we won't have to wait for water to boil to take a temperature.
All right.
No, we won't have to wait for some chemical reaction to occur, that's not gonna be instantaneous.
Yeah.
So I think you'll be fine with that, so just go with, I know you're thinking about time, but just go ahead and think about the process,
All right.
okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Would you be able to take a picture of this before we leave? Because I don't think
Before you
we'll have time
leave?
to copy it down.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you.
That's fine. So James, what are you working on?
I'm helping them with the procedure.
Perfect.
Wait, so do we need to do like all 5 experiments, or?
Well, what does that say? Read
No,
from-
this is the idea.
You're gonna do 5 different what? It doesn't say 5 experiments of July, what's the text say?
It just says to test them in the different things, right? So would you have to do all of them, or you just pick them?
You would have to do, you'd wanna do all of them, because you'd wanna see how the known substances will react with each test.
Okay.
So you'll have all of that equipment at your lab station.
Okay.
You'll have everything you need to be able to run all those tests in your one lab station.
So the ethyl alcohol, the hexane, and the hydrochloric acid, and the sodium hydroxide solution, are those all part of the introductory activity?
Yes, those are things, now keep reading as to what you're gonna use those for. That's one of the things with the materials that you have to look at and say, which one of these am I going to be testing, and which one of these things am I going to be using when I'm doing that test. So again, reading comprehension, just kind of making sure. We never really pay attention to the materials list until we actually have to write our own procedure. Then we want to see what are we going to use those for.
No, this is like an example. Like, okay, this is the introductory activities. Well, it's helped determine the properties for these two, but we're not using these two. Chemical bonds.
You'll have everything you need for all those tests at your lab station, at one lab station. So you'll be able to do it. But check out the materials list, because you're going to need to know which of those substances you're going to be testing and which of those substances you're going to be using to test.
Okay.
Okay. So you've got water. Well, we know about water. We know it's bent shape. But so would we be using that for a test, or would we be trying to test water?
Okay.
Right. So now you have to the materials list is even going to give you information.
Well, because of like what it says, like solubility and those are the three things that we're going to be using. Like, they're not going to be our unknown substances. So.
Well, just copper sulfate and
How are we doing?
paraffin wax.
For that questions?
What?
Okay, and then the hydrochloric acid and the sodium hydroxide are acids that we can use to test.
So let's go back to that. You're right. Like, does dissolve light? What does light substance?
Where is
A bond
Oh,
tensor or
okay.
polarity. So you might say
So
light
the
dissolves light,
hydrochloric
and then
acid
evidence
is
for
the
that
acid
is going to
and
be polar,
sodium
such as
hydroxide is for the
polar
base.
dissolving, non-polar, and you can even extend it further. Things that are polar will dissolve
So
in
what
water.
me and Sammy aren't allowed to work on step
So
A.
there's 3 different ways you can really finish that out in your explanation.
Will we be eventually typing all this?
No, it's all going to be written. This whole thing is going to be this way. You'll have a couple days to do that report, so don't worry. Because remember, your lab notebooks, they make a copy, and so
Right.
you'll have this as a copy, and then I'll be able to spend some time grading them.
Okay.
So what's happening?
Wait, when it says the choose appropriate materials, this one, is this?
That is that. So now, this is great because you guys are to the materials list, so now you have to figure out from your materials list which materials are going to be tested and which ones you think you're going to be used to do the testing. So that really means when you're looking at your procedure, you might have to look ahead to your procedure to see what you're going to be asked to do. And then you may want to group those materials into, these are the things we're going to test, this is our equipment, and then this is what we're going to test in. Okay? So everybody's agreed on that? Awesome. So you guys can start working on the pre-lab questions also? You did these? Okay. Did you notice when you were doing the second box on the pre-lab questions, how did you come up with these answers? These all are talking about bond type and melting point and solubility. Okay, so why did you assume the last one was ionic? S8? Oh, okay. Sure.
I can just tell you people by being scheduled. It doesn't relate to the first one. So, yeah, just read the whole sentence.
Have we moved beyond the background material yet, or are we still there? Okay, you guys have to pick up your pace a little bit, so you might want to facilitate, or you might want to start to assign some jobs, because by tomorrow, we need to...
decided that we'll do this all tonight, and
All right.
most of it.
Here, wait, can you guys want to hand me all the background stuff and I'll write it down and then I'll put it in the Google Doc?
You have all our ID numbers?
We already have a Google Drive.
Yes, we do.
Wait, which is that Wait, what's it called? Because I got one from you that's called, 3 electrons, is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, I called it Unity Electric because I felt like that was
Okay.
Anyway,
I don't think I received it.
I love this. I love, love, love that you guys are working together. Great conversations. We've got about 12 minutes to go. You should be, before you leave, but if you're not, then this will be homework. You should at least get up to where it says data collection. You have to have a data table ready tomorrow before you go into the lab, because otherwise, where are you going to put your data? So we don't want to spend any time at all tomorrow writing. We want to spend tomorrow doing. Okay, so facilitator, get your group going. Quality control, process people. Everybody pull together and let's get this done. Okay, I want to mention really one other thing to you guys too quickly. If you look at the materials list, all right, after you're going to do your procedure, and then they always list the materials. So you're going to need to decide from these materials which ones of these materials are you testing and which ones are going to be used for testing, and then what's your equipment. So you want to actually, your materials list where it says choose the proper materials, you want to kind of categorize these, because when you get into the lab you say, well, I have all this stuff in my lab, what do I do with it?
okay, so one of us can type up this whole list and then we can arrange it on the Google Doc because we really don't have much time.
Yeah.
I'm writing down the background information, like I'm putting all the summary ceilings so I can type that in too, so you guys can.
Yeah.
But you know that your lab report has to be handwritten.
Yeah.
Okay. But the Google Doc's a great way for you to combine information. Sure. Any questions for me?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's do procedure. Yeah.
You guys seem to be moving along quite rapidly. Any questions for me? Anything you're coming up
For the
with?
materials list, is it all the materials on the sheet? Or?
Well, that's a great question, Doug. So here's the materials list. There's a lot on there. So when you're looking at the procedure, you're going to need to chunk those materials. What's equipment? What are substances that you potentially could be testing? And what are substances that you would test into? So that you might use as solvents. So that's what you want to do with the materials. So when you write your materials list, you're going to chunk it out like that. Okay? That also will help you tomorrow when you have all your equipment at your lab station. You'll know exactly what to use and how to use it. Okay? Anything else? We good? Awesome. How are we doing? Good. You guys look so sleepy. Questions for me? Are we
doing, is there like 2 separate experiments between this one and the...
That's a good question. So tell me about this one.
This one is telling you like what you need to do to the metals and stuff, but it's like introductory activities, so I didn't know if there was like a separate like...
Okay, so don't just read the title. Make sure you read everything below it. So you said this is your testing part, right? So what are we going to do with our test results once we get those?
Record them in data tables.
Okay, and then why is that going to be helpful for the rest of the lab? Right, so this is a crucial part of the lab, is to do that testing ahead of time. And then you're going to go after that and talk to other groups and see what kind of results they got. And then you're going to come back and make sure that you know what characteristics you're looking for each of the different types of substances. Okay?
When it asks about conductivity, it says you have to find out the conductivity of solid and conductivity of solution.
Mm-hmm.
So are we going to be testing it on like of each like unknown substance on like conductivity with a solid and then with a solution? Is that what it is?
You're gonna, well, when you get in there, you'll see how it's set up, what you're given. So you'll know once you get into the lab. If it's a solid, you'll know that you might have to dissolve it. Or if it's already in solution, you can just test it that way. And then make sure too, so you're gonna write this procedure, you're gonna do it, you're gonna get your results, you're gonna have your conversations. And then after that, this is the key. Once you get to the second part, now you're going to do your unknowns. And then that's the part that you're going to make your flow chart, your yes, no, if this, then that. When you guys were in biology, did you do dichotomous keys? What did you use them for?
Animal. Like we did a bunch of different animals, and it was like I don't exactly remember, but it was like they'd give like one feature, and like if that animal had it, you could go, like, it would be in that category, and then once it did, it would be moved, and like it kept getting more specific and specific until it was down to like one animal.
Right. So if this was like a dichotomous key, how would you put this into what you did in biology?
Make like the features like chemical features, and then get it down to just have it like
Right. So does it do this? Yes. It's this. No. Move on. Okay. So that's really what you're doing in the second part over here. Okay. All right. Sure. No questions for me? Okay. About 7 minutes. So make sure you guys know what you're doing tonight so that everybody can get their work done. And this is, again, you want to be at least to the data collection so you have a table. So somebody can even put that together too.
So do we need separate data tables, or we just combine
Your data table is going to look the same for all of you. That part will look pretty much
Well,
the same.
I know that like our data tables look the same, but are we gonna have multiple data tables like?
From everybody else's work when you talk to the other groups?
Well, like will we have one data table for like melting point, one for solubility, or should we just?
That's up to you, how you want to set that up.
Okay.
That's however you want to set it up. Usually if you can get all your data into one table, that's probably the best. Otherwise you just have a list. Okay. 7 minutes. I'll be right there.
It says representative chemicals. Are those like given for you?
Read the whole sentence to me.
4 representative chemicals are provided for preliminary testing and identifying physical and chemical properties.
Okay, so representative would mean what? Would you have to know their identities or not know their identities? You'd have to know them because they're representing what you're going to be testing later. Okay.
So do you test them like that?
So you're going to know already what they are, either ionic or covalent, and then based off of their results, you'll be able to match the result. This goes with the ionics, this goes with the covalents. Okay? That was a good question.
So then the first thing should be.
I'm so confused. So
Go ahead.
do we have to put those materials through like the testing, like as finals, or is that information given?
That you're going to figure out what that is through the testing.
So we need to test 2 substances.
You're going to test all 4 substances with all of those. You're going to test all the knowns with all of the tests.
Okay. And then test all of the unknowns.
And then test all the unknowns. But remember, when you test your knowns and you get your test results, then what you're going to do is you're going to have a conversation real quickly with the other groups, make sure that they get the same results that you guys did, because you should. Right? And then you're going to use that procedure again.
To confirm it.
Yes.
Alright, so we should start with like the.
So
I'm sorry, I didn't know.
notes
All
and everything.
right, what was your question?
Wait, so, would we like, would this have to be part of like procedure? So it'd be like finding so it'd be like finding, I mean it says introductory activity, but so you include
Okay, so hey you guys, as long as you're all here, just because the heading says introductory activity doesn't necessarily mean that that's not part of the procedure. Because in AP Labs, you have to do something first before you actually get to the actual lab itself.
So will we do like for the procedure we would start with this and say like that you need to do this to figure out the trends, and then using the trends you would do the experiments again to figure out the unknowns.
Right, but you have to write a procedure of how you're going to find the information that leads you to the trends.
And then you'd write a procedure of how to do those experiments and then use the trends to figure out.
Would you have to write a whole new procedure?
Or you could just say you could do those steps again, right?
Well, you want to be specific though.
Repeat steps, blank through, like if we number our steps, we can just do that.
Just repeat?
With another substance, or you can phrase it.
Okay, but now remember, you know that the substances that you're testing are either going to be ionic or covalent.
So we don't need to do nonpolar or polar covalent, we just need to know ionic or covalent.
Ionic and covalent.
Alright, so we don't need to be more specific.
No.
Alright, and then you said we were going to use 4 known chemicals?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, which 4 are they?
If I told you, then they would be known.
seeing
No,
the four ones
no.
we
Don't we
use
use
for
like
the
4
introductory.
known to
You'll
use?
have 4 knowns, so you have to find that after on the material list.
I mean,
Which ones do
there's
you
only
think?
2 here.
It only says there are 2, copper sulfate and dextrose. The other ethyl alcohol, hexane, hydrochloric acid, and sodium hydroxide
Okay.
and water are all used as solids.
But let's read this first sentence again. I'm sorry, it's not 4 knowns. Even I didn't read this. 4 representative chemicals are provided for preliminary testing to identify the chemical and physical processes that can be used to develop a qualitative analysis scheme. The chemicals and type of bonding in each are, and so you have those 2, but then you also are going to have other chemicals that are going to help you test these things. So the ones you're testing and the ones you're using for testing is going to equal 4. The ones you're testing and the ones you're using to test.
So paraffin wax, copper 2 sulfate,
Right?
and dextrose?
Oh, no, I think these are the 4 chemicals we're using to test.
No, those are solids.
Yeah, I know, that's what I'm saying. Those are the 4 chemicals used to test, and then these are the ones you're testing.
No, I know, but
That's
there's
what
only
you're
2
on the right track, Abdullah.
So there's 2 that you test, but it's 4
Yes.
chemicals that you use to test. That's what she's saying.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you have been working extremely hard. It is 8:10 right now. What I need you to do is this. Please don't lose the lab. I will try to post it on Edline today and the rubric. But tomorrow when you come in, you need to make sure you are up to the data table. Yes, you can take a picture of the whiteboard that you wrote on, but please remember to send that to everybody in your group. Does anybody have any questions for me before you leave? So my email box doesn't blow up tonight. Am I good? All right, let's clean up. Picture, picture. Sammy, can you make sure that everything gets back in the middle pile? Alex, yes, Alex's group is using a Google Doc. Possibility. You guys clean up, make sure everything goes in the middle. You guys grab those markers and make sure they're all in the box. Thank you. Any problems? Pretty good. This group works so good together. They're so well together. Nice, nice, nice. Christopher, you all right? Okay. You guys got a picture? Go ahead and erase those. Oh.
Oh, yeah, I'm good.
I'm looking at you going, okay, what do I need to help you with? You look so young. Where's your backpack?